Hey, Luca Nation. Please listen to our entire episode here, but in case you are running into a time crunch, I'm going to give you the picks right up front here so you have them all in the first minute of the episode here. That way you can get your bets in, get your picks in. We got the Raiders -3. We got the Cards -1.5. We got the Giants -6. The Panthers +3. Cleveland -7, the Colts -3, the Bills -4.5, Miami -7. On to the 4 o'clock games. We're taking New Orleans against, I don't know what quarterback the Broncos are throwing out there, if any. New Orleans -15. Go ahead and lay those points. 49ers +6.5. Got the Chiefs -3.5. And in the 8 o'clock game, go ahead and lay the 9 points. Pick Green Bay -9. Stay tuned. You got a whole episode with analysis, some card plays, some picks, a whole lot of Andrew in there, and enjoy the slate of games today. Thanks for listening, everybody.
What's up, Luca Nation? Happy Sunday from us to you guys over here. Happy Sunday from Andrew. Happy Sunday from Cage. And welcome back to another episode of Luca's Tigers and Bronzo My. There's some really intriguing matchups tonight.
That was like a Michael Buffer, Bruce Buffer. Like that was like a Buffer Luca Nation entrance there on a Sunday morning from you, man. You out. Did you have your like morning yoga already? Did you do your thing or what?
No, not yet. I'm gonna go for a walk. But no, I was gonna ask you. I was watching Chappelle. Chappelle did like this 18-minute IGTV, kind of telling the story of his life. Do you have a favorite comedy act or comedy guy?
Well, I'm an old man, so I'd have to default to Eddie Murphy. I like Richard Pryor stuff, like Eddie Murphy when Eddie Murphy did live, like Raw and Delirious. That was like the original stand-up stuff for me. I'll listen, as much as I give you shit for not knowing like Goonies and those kind of movies, I can honestly say I've never watched any Chappelle. I've never seen the Chappelle Show, not a single episode of it. I've never watched any of his stand-up. I don't know why. I mean, I find him funny. I think.
Well, when you find a guy you like, when you find a style you like, it's hard to kind of deviate, isn't it? Because like he kind of hones in on a lot of the issues and topics that are going on in culture.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you know what's funny? It's maybe it's my own fault, but I remember when the first Chappelle Show came out. Somebody like the day after it was released, somebody did like one of the skits for me. Like somebody was like, "Oh, you should see it. He did this." So I'm Samuel Jackson, like something like it was like a Sam Adams, Sam Jackson play on thing, and I was like, I remember the people doing it, and here's the problem. Obviously, Chappelle is funny, but the person who was reenacting this for me is like the opposite of funny.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, I am not watching that. Like that looks the opposite of funny, and I just never watched it. I guess I should, but I have a couple weird ones like that, man. I never saw a full episode of Seinfeld. You know, and that's like my humor. I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. I love Larry David. I think that stuff's hilarious, and obviously that's his show. But I've never actually watched like a full. I've seen bits and pieces. It's impossible today, obviously, to not know a little bit. You know, the soup Nazi or the shirt, the puffy shirt. You know, like obviously it's in culture, but I've never like sat down and said I'm going to watch a full episode of Seinfeld. It's just one of those weird things, I guess.
I love it. Well, do you want to cover boxing at all from last night, or
sure,
do you want to just get right into football?
Listen, people are going to wake up and hear this and be thinking about boxing. So, you know, I did happen to watch both of those. Are we going to call them events? Are we going to call them fights? I mean, what are we going to call what we watched last night? Well, it was so horrible you don't even want to respond.
I didn't watch him.
You didn't watch him?
No, I just watched the knockout. It was a good hit. I mean, he connected. I don't really know what Nate Robinson was doing. He was kind of just like running around the ring trying to get hit. But yeah, that was a nice knockout. I didn't watch Tyson versus Roy Jones.
Well, people are. I remember leading up to it, the conversation. We even had a couple of folks in one of our groups, also talking about it, saying it's going to be a closer fight than you think. Nate Robinson's an athlete. Jake Paul is not. He's a wrestler. I mean, Paul has boxed now. This is not his first fight. I mean, Nate Robinson, this was his first, attempt to box.
Dunking over someone will not help you in a boxing ring. That kind
Yes.
of athleticism is not what you need. It's different in there.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, that was Jake Paul. I don't want to say he's a legitimate boxer, but he's a legitimate boxer when he's boxing anyone who's not a legitimate boxer. Does that make any sense? I mean, if you you get an amateur stepping in the ring with him, he's above an amateur now. I mean, he's had several decent fights under his belt, and he can fight. So
I've only boxed a little bit, maybe like 3 different times in my life for like 3 month periods of time. And the hardest
Mhm.
thing is to catch up with the speed of it all. Like the first time you're sparring with someone,
Mhm.
everything feels so fast. You know what I
So
mean? Like you don't understand the speed of everything. And then when you have a couple of spars under your belt, I imagine that helps you.
well, I mean, was it Mike Tyson that said it? The thing about boxing, he used to say everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? So the sparring is an interesting thing because it's the closest thing to the adrenaline, the situation of a fight. I mean, you can go there and shadow box all you like. You can hit the heavies and the speeds, and you can do whatever you want to do. But you can have a game plan going in. If somebody punches you in the nose, it all kind of goes
For
out the
sure.
window. It's like a contact sport, right? My favorite thing was the last time I trained in a boxing gym. Like legitimately going and training and the whole deal. I was very into UFC at the time. And that the interest in that has waxed and waned depending upon the top level fighters. The headliners. You don't have as many headliners now, big names as they did when I got into it. Um, but I remember watching fights and training. MMA as well, but a boxing gym was closer to my office at the time. And I remember going through drills. It's like, okay, hit the heavy bag, hit the heavy bag, hit the heavy bag, and I would just kick it. Like you throw like a 1-2, you throw a little combination, and then all of a sudden I'd snap a kick, at the bag, and everybody in the boxing gym would be laughing, like, "Stop kicking it! It's a boxing gym. Like, why are you kicking the bag?" So
Do you remember what made you want to do UFC or mixed martial arts and boxing? Like,
no, no. I
why
mean,
did you want to train for it?
that was just trying to get in shape a little bit more. It wasn't one of those like I was never ever going to like box. Like I was never really planning on like, oh, I'm gonna get into an amateur fight or
Dude, getting
you
in
know.
shape is a good reason because like a lot of people hear getting in shape and they're like, I'm gonna for a run. I'm gonna go to the gym and lift weights, but that's not for everyone.
Thing about boxing that stuck out to me. You say it's the sparring and whatnot. The thing about boxing that stuck out to me is those guys who do it, because I was in a legit boxing gym. The stamina is amazing. To be able to last, I couldn't even last one round at the
Right.
pace they're doing. I mean, these guys are constantly not just doing the boxing training, but they're treadmill, riding a bike, you name it. It's all endurance, it's all stamina, and it's just it's really amazing. You put the gloves on and you try to hug somebody for 5 rounds, let alone throwing
Yep.
punches and whatnot, and you're dead by the end of that first round. You're waiting like, ooh, let's hear the end of the round. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's 3-minute rounds, right? I mean, 5 minutes are UFC.
Jabbing and punching for a minute and a half will have you out of breath. I'll
Oh, forget it.
promise you that.
It's
I
difficult, but
promise
listen,
you that.
I love it. So we'll touch really quickly on it because I want to get into the picks, right? Because everybody's got time crunches. But the Tyson fight, um, what it shows me is 54 is not what 54 used to be, right? In the 50s, you hear people say all the time, like 40 is the new 30, right? Um, Not that I would call that a competitive fight, but I wouldn't compare it to my two drunk uncles getting into a brawl in the backyard. Although it was probably closer to that than a legitimate fight. I mean, the rules set it up in such a way where it kind of was either going to be a mess with somebody getting tagged or a dance fest, which is kind of what it turned into at the end. I mean, 2-minute rounds, and they really weren't supposed to be knocking each other out. Remind me of it's supposed to be an exhibition. Tony says in Rocky Four between Creed and Drago. But I mean, Tyson obviously was the aggressor. I mean, they called it a draw, but it wasn't really an official, judging kind of thing. It wasn't sanctioned. It was some COVID issues with the judges. I mean, it's like a whole to do, but it was ruled a draw. It was not a draw. I mean, Tyson was the aggressor for the entire fight. Jones basically hugged him for the whole fight. The first couple rounds, Tyson landed some really nice shots. And then as you expect from two guys who were 100 combined years old, there was a lot less action as the fight continued. And, most of the comments that I saw while watching it were like, wow, this is boring. Wow, this was not really a fight. Wow, this was not the way I expected it to be. Wow, these are my drunk uncles. I stole that from somebody. But yeah, I mean, look, I guess you get what you pay for there. And, Mike Tyson at 54 is not Mike Tyson at 20. So anybody who's expecting him to come in there and, put on a Larry Holmes type performance is mistaken. So there you go. Listen,
Love
these
it.
and the NFL ones, I mean, we've done these a million different ways, but without putting you too much on the spot, you always have like a game that sticks out, the whole deal. I'm gonna tell you which one sticks out for me, and I want to see whether it's the same one that sticks out for you. Right now, it's the game of the week, I would call it, is the Chiefs against the Bucks. I mean,
It's
just
going to
talk
be an
about
exciting game.
yeah,
That's going
talk
to
about
that. You mean sticks out from a
just
game
from
to watch tonight?
just a game to watch type of thing. I went through all the plays and all of the rationale on them and the whole deal. But as far as like sticks out as like one to watch, one that you will be exciting, one that is slated to be close. One that has a whole bunch of different storylines. One that could potentially be a Super Bowl matchup. You don't get too many potential Super Bowl matchups during the regular season. So, even though it's going out of order a little bit, when I look at these things, it's like the game, the game of the week, the game to watch. That was the game that I was most excited to talk about. Most excited to
Let's
kind of
start
go
there.
over.
Where are you leaning? Because I agree that is the game that's most exciting to talk about. This is a game that you could really make a play on, in my opinion.
Yeah. So what's funny about this is, I mean, when I saw this, I thought a couple things. Number one, I thought before I look at the spread, what would I put the spread at? Number two, in addition to the spread, I wanted to make sure I saw what the over was because I had a feeling there'd be some points on score. But my biggest thought on this was when we talk about this for our NFL preview episode, this is one that Andrew's going to want to tease the other way. This is one that Andrew's going to want to, he'll tease across the line and make this one Chiefs getting points, and make it one of his teaser plays. But this is one where there's a lot of analysis going into this one, right? And it's funny. So ultimately, I'm picking the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win this game. We have a spread here, which of course I looked again this morning so that you and I don't have any issues with the spread. It's exactly where I would put the spread. It's funny, right? So you never like those because the spread is 3.5. So the Chiefs have to cover by more than a field goal, which I mean, could the Chiefs win this game by a field goal? 100%. I mean, that's why the line is kind of where the line is. But some interesting, fun stuff on this, right? Brady looked awful last week, and he just hasn't looked spectacular probably all year. And you got to remember, just like we talked about with Tyson, I mean, Brady's one of the GOATs, one of the GOAT conversation quarterbacks. But I mean, Brady's like 112 years old. I mean, he's not doing the things that he did, 5 years ago. Now, but let's flip some stats on you here for Brady, right? I'm sure they're going to the playoffs. I'm sure it's the first time Tampa Bay is going to be in the playoffs since 2007, right? Now, a couple of like opposite sides of the equation stats on Brady, right? Because he's got some great wide receivers, right? So
Bringing out the stats. I love
he's
it.
got some of the best wide receivers. No, because with Brady, you can make an argument for him either way. It's one of those things where like if you have a conclusion ahead of time, you can give the stats, right?
Yep.
So if you want to say Brady is great, you can do these stats. If you want to say like here. So if I wanted to go into this and say Brady is having a bad year and he's falling apart, here are the stats that I would give you, right? The stats I'd say, look at his wide receiving core, right? He's got one of the best wide receiving groups in the league, if not the best, with Mike Evans and Godwin and now Antonio Brown, you name it. But he cannot stretch the field. Impossible. It's like he so I looked up stats. They said, one of those next gen stats kind of thing, right? They said Brady's last 22 pass attempts of 20 or more yards, which is what stretching the field is, right?
Right.
Have all 22 are incomplete. That's the longest stretch for any quarterback in the league in the last 4 years. So
That's not going to get it done.
His last 22 attempts of 20 yards or more, all incomplete, right? That's bad. Also, he has thrown more interceptions already this year than he did all last year. That's also his highest rate since 2009 for throwing picks. But if you wanted to make an argument for Brady, he's got 25 touchdowns this year too, which you want to talk about, oh, it's Brady. This is not the Brady of the Patriots. Well, he didn't even have 25 touchdowns all of last year, and it's week 12 this year, right? So, I mean, if you wanted to, you could find a way to kind of argue, Brady, either way, whichever one I go. Tampa Bay, they've kind of, what you want to say, what they've risen to the occasion on some of their tougher games, right? I mean, the Packers is the one that stands out. And then you kind of got to dip down to the Panthers and the Raiders to say convincing wins. But are those really like upper echelon teams, or are they middling teams that have each had a win or two that made them look better than the middle of the road teams that
They've been Gemini. They've been hot and cold.
Exactly. So,
but I'll tell you, there's one angle you haven't touched on, and that's pride. I think this is a game of pride here for Tom Brady.
All right. You think he's going to go out there and have to defend? So I mean, that's great. Obviously he'd be playing for pride here. The only problem that I have with that is that while the Chiefs have had trouble containing the Raiders' offense this year, they haven't really had trouble with anyone else. 8-0 against everybody else, and it's Mahomes. Although I don't love him personally, and I'm a Raider fan, I mean, he's going to collect his second MVP award unless something crazy happens down the stretch here. And
you don't think Brady wants to let it be known that on his home field with his receiving crew, basically a team he put together, he's still the king? I expect an effort and a half from the Buccaneers today. They're going to be hitting hard, but I think they're going to win this game.
So,
and I would never tease the Chiefs from -3 to +3. I would tease
the other way and get them 10.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think either way, all right. But obviously, you're not going to tease it towards the Chiefs if you like the Bucs. So my take on this one, I'll leave it on this and move on to the next one. It's at their best, the Bucs can beat the Chiefs 100%. 100%, the Bucs can beat the Chiefs. But knowing when the best version of Tampa Bay is going to show up is impossible. You're always going to get a good effort from the Chiefs. So that's why I side this one. Could I see the Bucs winning the game? 100%. But you even said Gemini themselves, right? I mean, that's the deal. And what I've noticed is, when you add a little bit of craziness to a Gemini, they kind of veer towards the side you don't want showing up, of the mixed personality, right? And talk about they added Antonio
Brown.
Yeah.
You come live in my house that I rented from Derek Jeter with my beautiful Brazilian wife and my kids I kiss on the lips.
Yeah. So
Antonio Brown.
It's so I mean, that's just look, there's when there's one of those recipes for craziness to happen, that's one of the craziest. So I'm gonna swing that one back.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Let's go to the 1 a.m. 1
yeah,
p.m.
1 o'clock games. Yep, 1 o'clock games. Yep.
I just have to, because we went with two really good teams. I want to bring your attention to this line. Did you see the Giants-Bengals line?
I did. Giants -6.
-6.
Bengals. Yep.
How often do you see a bad team giving 6 points against an even worse team?
Well, so on this one here, there are games that stuck out at me that were what I would call difficult ones to know which side of the line I'm gonna land on, which is good. I mean, Vegas, I shouldn't wake up and say every one of these is easy to pick, because then you're gonna lose a bunch of them, because that's just not the way it works, right? This was not a difficult one for me.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
This wasn't a difficult one for me at all, because while the Giants are 3-7, you have to remember, we talked about this last week. The Giants have either won or lost since week 3, I think it is, every game by a single score. So they're in games, they stay in games. Now you could argue though that the 6 points is too much, because the Giants have won or lost every game by a single score, which means even though they're staying in these games, they're not blowing anybody out. They're not winning these games by a bunch. But for me, this one here, this is just like, the Bengals, who were 2-7-1, the only thing that made them a legitimate candidate to be in a game was Joe Burrow. right? That was it, right?
What
And
is this
even,
line when Joe Burrow plays?
you know what? I think probably Bengals +1. I think
That's
Bengals
an
+1.
insane swing with just one
Yeah.
player because
Yeah,
I
I think
agree
it's
with that.
+1. And I mean, it could even be Bengals -1 because I mean the Giants are not great. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna pick the Giants here, but I'm not saying the Giants are a great team. But the Giants. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but at 3-7, and the momentum and the way they've played since week 3, let's call it, right. So in the last 8 or 9 weeks, the Giants look like they could win that horrible division. I mean, you could say that for almost any team in that division because they're all kind of bunched up. Look, Washington kind of, they might have.
I said it. I said that same thing. I think the Giants. I mean, I don't want to
So
call them good, but I definitely think that they're the most consistent team of any of the teams in the NFC East.
yeah, I mean,
I
listen,
think that's fair to say, right?
they play good games. You know what I worry about? I mean, I don't even know who's quarterbacking for the Bengals. Is it Brandon Allen? I think it's Brandon Allen who's quarterback for the Bengals.
Maybe Finley, but I'm not sure either.
Finley. I mean, I heard Finley might not play either, and I mean, even if it is Finley, who the hell cares? But I mean, Brandon Allen might get in this game, and he was on their practice squad 2 weeks ago. I mean, like it's this. So it's a quarterback league. It's a quarterback driven league, and
Yep.
it's a very different game if it was Burrow. And what I see is the Bengals going into a game where they just basically lost the heart of the team. You know what I mean? They said, this is we had one shot of being, competitive in a game against a bad team, and that was with Burrow. They don't have Burrow, so that just takes the whole thing out.
If that offensive line couldn't keep Burrow up, I don't think they're gonna have that much motivation to keep the
Yeah.
next guy up. So, okay, Giants -6.
Yes.
It sounds like you're leaning.
Yeah, I'm Giants -6, 100%. So we got Casey -3.5 and Giants -6. So one of the games that I really wavered on back and forth on this one. I'd love to hear your pick on it. Right, in 1 o'clock game, it's the Chargers at the Bills, which
Tough game.
this is a game that I really actually I want to watch. I mean, this might be the 1 o'clock game to watch here because you want to talk about two young quarterbacks who are going to be parts of the face of the league for many many years to come, and a nice one too because the Bills at home. How do they come back from the last time we saw them? Talk about like my heart being ripped out of the team, right? The last time we saw them was the Hail Mary, Kyler Murray to Hopkins play, right? I mean, the Bills are 7-3. They're still probably winning their division. I hear some Miami stuff, but after Miami's last game, I don't hear so much Miami talk, bro, name it. But but Bills should be 8-2. I mean, the Bills. Just how much momentum does that take away, right?
They had a bye week though, right?
Yeah, yep. They have, and then
You
it's a
don't think
home game
that
here.
extra week kind of gave them a little bit of time to kind of regain perspective because it was one game. It's not going to have an effect on the end of the year. They're going to win that division. It's all in their control. Don't you think they just rebound after a bye week?
Yeah, I do. I think that it's better that they come back up, with an extra week. Although some could say that the best thing after something like that would be to get on the field and play quickly instead of having 2 weeks to let it stew, right? Like I think if you
I
ask the
would say
Bills,
the best thing is playing Anthony Lynn your next game if you really want to know the best thing. And a
well,
Chargers team that the market for whatever reason thinks is good, but they just keep losing games. So I don't know why people think Justin Herbert and the Chargers are that good. I'm not a buyer. I frankly am not a buyer.
so here's my take on this one, right? So I'm gonna go with the Bills. But a couple fun things about this game, right? We have the Bills currently minus 4.5. That has come down. Okay, it was more than that. The Bills were actually favored by more, and you're the money guy. But obviously, when a line comes down, that means Vegas is trying to get you to bet the Bills, right? So is that some sort of a trap there? Is that something that you're concerned about? Because if you look at the Chargers games, they've either been ahead and let teams get back into it, or they've been behind but they've stayed close enough. Like they do, just like the Giants, they do play close-ish games. And could this be a game where Buffalo wins, but wins a close one? Yeah, I mean, that's probably why the line is there. But when I have those type of games, what I do is I say, there's 3 ways it could go, right? It's Chargers winning. That's not even one of them. I don't think the Chargers win this game, right? So it's Buffalo in a blowout. Definitely can happen. It's 49 degrees game time and clear conditions in Orchard Park, New York, which end of November, early December, Buffalo, you could have some dicey weather. As far as like today's game conditions, this is about the best the Buffalo could have
That's
probably hoped
gorgeous.
for, right? It's
Gorgeous.
exactly that's gorgeous for up there, exactly. So, they'll be able to pass, they'll be able to run. Josh Allen, all the talents will be on display. It'll be the whole 9 yards, and the Chargers have a ton of injuries on defense, right? But could Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert do enough to keep this game close? Obviously, with the line moving the way it is, it's possible. I just figure this one here is the Bills to lose. You're right; they want to come back. They're healthy. They're off a bye. I think they could jump out to a nice lead, and the Chargers, kind of melt away. But this was one where, I picked it to talk about now because it is one where, I did kind of, is this one? Is this one? You could see it.
So a lot of chalk. So we got Chiefs -3.5. We got Bills -3.5. And we got Giants -6. Let's keep going.
So this is a week of chalk for me. It really is a week of the favorites kind of stuck out to me as the way to go. So sticking with that trend. Another fun game just because of what they've done recently. The Titans at the Colts. The Colts are
that's
minus.
Gonna be a good one.
Yeah, Colts are -3. Right. So the Colts. The Colts were a preseason pick of mine to go to the Super Bowl, and they're 7-3. What a crazy game they had last week, right? Where they were behind. What were they losing 28-14 at halftime? I think to the Packers.
They were down by 14 points twice in that game.
Yeah, and that defense. I talked about it, Darius Leonard. I've mentioned him a couple times, right? And they're a very good defense. This game though, it's interesting, right? So the Titans, they beat Baltimore in overtime, which Baltimore doesn't look like the team that people thought they were going to be, right, coming into the season. But that still is a pretty impressive win, and you got 2 7-3
at Baltimore as well, right?
This is at Indiana. Yeah, that was at Baltimore, but this game's in Indianapolis. Yes. Listen, what this one came down to for me, it's a field goal. It's Colts at home -3, although the home field advantage doesn't mean what it means in normal years. But I got the Colts are a more balanced team between these two. Playing at home, I could see their offense putting up a lot of points against a banged up Tennessee defense. And for this one here, I just, on paper, it looks like the Colts have too many advantages in this matchup to not pick them -3. I love Derrick Henry, and that guy is great, but he usually does his thing against not so spectacular defenses. The Colts are a pretty good defense, even without DeForest Buckner, defensive tackle, who was on the COVID-19 list for this week. But this one here was one of the quicker ones for me to fill out when we went through the spreads. Colts -3 on this one.
Love it.
So let us see the other 1 o'clock games. I'm trying to find one that wasn't chalk for you, man, because you calling me out on the chalk, but instead
I'm not calling you out on the chalk.
There are ones. I didn't pick all favorites, but there are ones. So this one here, pick with the heart, but also pick with the brain. I was surprised. I thought this one might actually have more points. I was happy to see it's only -3, but it's Raiders at Falcons. I guess maybe it's 3 Raiders because they're a road favorite, coming across to play in Atlanta. The Raiders are coming off a loss. Those are all things that cut the spread, right? But they're coming off a loss to the Chiefs in a game that they potentially could have won. I don't believe in moral victories, right? But if there ever was one, give the Raiders one, almost beat the Chiefs twice. If they got the ball again, if there's lots of ifs, but the Falcons are 3-7. And
did you hear John Gruden's press conference about what he thinks of the Falcons?
No, what does he think of the Falcons? Did he say they're great? They're the best team in the world. They have so much respect for them.
He's the best 3-7 team they've ever seen. And
what is he supposed to say as a coach? He's supposed to say these guys are terrible. My niece's Pop Warner team can beat them.
He also said that some of the games that they've played, he doesn't even know how they've lost them. This is the best 3-7 team he's seen, and they have this linebacker. He's from Yale, Cage. His name's Foyesade Alukun. Monster.
Sounds good.
He's from Yale, dude. He's a rookie. And that defense has been playing a lot better. That's why that line is 3.
Are
Because
you going to
it
be
is interesting.
are you gonna be buying cards of the Yale linebacker?
No, he's a monster though.
That's one of
I think
those.
he's a Vayner Sports client as well, by the way.
Oh well, then you have to buy him. No, so here's one of those things,
I'm
right?
bringing people information that they
I
could
like it.
use in the game.
And here is my information for that. Why is it that defensive guys don't get the love in the hobby? I mean, it's half the game, right? It's half the game, right? Unless you're Reggie White, a transcendent type of defensive player, and even Reggie White doesn't get the hobby love that quarterbacks get. Is that something we see change? We've seen some position players get more love recently, in football, other than just quarterbacks. Can some of these
Let me
transcend
ask you then. Today, 2020, Sean Taylor's
Mhm.
playing in the game.
Mhm.
Do you think he gets the love?
No,
Still no. Even someone as electrifying like he is.
not hobby love. No. Tell me one. We're in the thick of it all the time. People are going to be opening up. I think this coming week, Prism Football comes out at its whopping 4-figure box price tag. Anyone pulls a sparkle of any defensive player or a shiny silver or whatever it is of any defensive player. Is anybody in a break yelling and screaming for the
What makes me
hey, I
worried
got
about
this
Prism football
fantastic
being
defensive
expensive?
guy? No, go ahead.
So like Prism basketball, it has at least the potential for you to recoup the cost of the box,
Yep.
right? There's a lot of guys and some of the lower tier guys now they have value. What scares me about football is 98% of the pulls probably are $1 or $2 cards,
Yep.
and you're paying 4 figures for it. You need 4 or 5 hits to even recoup your cost. It's no longer one big hit that pays off the box.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely difficult to justify breaking prism boxes. I mean, it's one thing to break for fun if you're breaking a, 100, 200, $250 box just to, gamble slash, you know, try to pull something on one of your guys, but prism's difficult. Prism's difficult on breaking. It just
But
is.
Cage, isn't that the worst feeling when you pull your guy and you still are losing money on the box?
Yeah.
Like that to me is very frustrating. Like if I pull a Burrow silver and a Tua silver, for example, in the Prism, and I'm still haven't paid off my box, that would be really frustrating.
Well, if you happen to pull a Burrow and a Tua Silver out of your box, I think you're gonna do fine because when you combine whatever else is in there that you're gonna get, you'll be okay. I mean, I think those will cover.
You think those 2 cards will cover the box?
Yeah,
You
I
okay?
think you should be thankful. I would think if you pull a Burrow and a Tua Silver out of a box and whatever other middling autographs and color cards you get, I think you cobble together. I don't think that box would be a loss. I think that box would be a win. But we'll see. We shall see. I'm not planning on opening any. I remember Prism Blaster boxes. You used to be able to get them at Target all day, every day for $20. I mean, that used to be what if I wanted to open up a blaster box of stuff, with Ian, as recently as 2018, they would be sitting on the shelves with nobody caring. But now, obviously, you can't. I saw somebody trying to sell football Prism blasters. I guess they're already out. I think they were selling them for $125 or $130 a blaster, which I guess is what the market is looking for now on those. But fun stuff. But anyway, back to the Raiders. We didn't give the pick yet. I'm going Raiders -3. My
Chalky,
story
chalky,
on this
chalk.
one: Atlanta is 1-4 at home, and their secondary is not good. And Julio Jones has an injured hamstring. I mean, I know they have a linebacker from Yale who is just going to be all over the field. They're going to put him in. He's going to play, two-way football. They're going to put him in at wide receiver. This middle linebacker from Yale is going to play quarterback, right, Andrew? Your favorite guy. But in any event,
Yeah, he's my favorite guy.
This is what's you can't. I don't even know his name, so I can't. What I mean,
You could refer to him as Foy.
Foy,
Foyer.
Foyer. Yay! Okay, so yeah, that's the Raiders -3 again. Pick with my heart and pick with my brain on that one. I just don't think the
Well, let's
Falcons have
keep
what it
going
needs.
chalk.
So
How about your
next
boyfriend Baker
game,
Mayfield
1:00. Forget about
versus
that.
your
I
other?
don't want to see yes because that's going to be chalk. But let's switch it up for a second. This way, they're not all chalk. Go to the Panthers Vikings, right? So this is the Panthers at the Vikings, right? I got to tell you, I like the Panthers. I think they're a good team. But this is one we are going with the underdog, right? We are going with the Panthers in this one, right? I don't think they have McCaffrey in this game. I think they do have Bridgewater. Both of them were kind of they were both practicing on Wednesday. I think last I read this morning, they were holding McCaffrey out of the game. The Panthers. This is one of the things you like to bring up. The Panthers. They have a bye next week. So I think that might be part of the reason why they might be resting up the injured folks. Do they look ahead as bye? I mean, I think Bridgewater's playing. I think the Vikings secondary is one that they exploit. The Panthers have a really good underrated wide receiving core.
Yes, they do.
I just think this is one where the Panthers, a little more live here, right? I mean, the spread was 4 and now it's 3. I'd love it if it was still 4. I want you to check your odds. Maybe I'll get lucky and it's 3.5, and I feel even more confident with my pick. Maybe it's changed as we've done this, but no, it's not. I mean, I think it's. I'm going to take the Panthers on this one +3. We gotta make sure I give you somebody who's an underdog on this one, but. The Vikings did not look that great last time around. I like Dalvin Cook. I think he's a really, really good running back, and what he's doing this year is pretty impressive. And if Mahomes wasn't putting up kind of like otherworldly stats, you'd have to really start talking about Dalvin Cook as a potential MVP candidate. This one here, I think the Panthers show up. I think the Panthers play a good game, and I think they might actually win the game on the road. To one you wanted to talk about, Cleveland Browns at Jacksonville. This one here is one that I thought was one of the easier picks of the week. I'm going Cleveland, lay the 7.
Myles Garrett's out.
Yeah, and he's great and the whole deal, but who's quarterbacking for the Jaguars
really
today?
He's really good. Cage, have you seen a defensive player like him in a long time?
So I would say compared to him, there's usually one or two players in the league, every generation that are like him. I think Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt are the only ones on Myles Garrett level. And Garrett might be the best of the 3. He's the most athletic, I think, of the 3. Yeah. Obviously, Watt's on the down side of his career,
but
so still
fast, dude. Great. He's so fast and so powerful.
You know what it is? It's very smart, right? I used to love watching Lawrence Taylor play. And one of the cool things about watching Taylor was once somebody explained to him that you still get credit for a sack if you don't break the quarterback in half, but you just knock the ball out of their hand and recover it, you get credit for a sack and a fumble recovery. He was like the strip sack king. And I think Garrett he's much more, he's smart. He plays the game smart. And I'm week after week, I see him make, big plays, fumble recovery for a strip sack, turnover, you name it. This one here, what I love about this one is the Browns are going to go to Jacksonville today. They're going to go to Florida and feel like it's a vacation, right? I mean, it's going to be, the last 3 weeks they've played home games in cold, wet, wind, like the offense hasn't had a chance to do anything. They haven't had a chance to open it up, right? And they just played in these just disgusting conditions where, if they're able to score 10 or 13 points, you consider it a victory, right? So today it's supposed to be 76 degrees and clear in Jacksonville, and looking across the field is going to be Jacksonville's ridiculously horrible defense. And I think maybe Mike Glennon is going to see some time at quarterback. I mean, just like
talk about it. Are so weird. Why not play Minshew? What has Minshew done to lose his job?
Nothing.
Why would you go back to Mike Glennon?
Nothing. And you know what it is? I think they're trying to lose. I really do. I think they're trying to lose.
Minshew wins games. I'm going to be honest. Minshew kept them in a lot of games they had no business being in.
Yep. You know how much I love Minshew, and I don't get it. Look, the thing is, I guess there's some decent quarterbacks coming out in the draft coming up. Quarterbacks that look more like they are NFL quarterbacks. There's quite a few of them, right? And the Jaguars will be in line for one of them when you look at Gardner Minshew. While I love the kid, and I think that some teams should give him a shot, and he's going to be one hell of a quarterback for a team that doesn't.
He's going to lead the XFL reboot. That's what he's going to lead the XFL reboot.
That's cool, man. He's a character. But here's the deal, right? The Jaguars are just a team that can't get out of their own way. Um, I think they would be fine with Minshew. I think they built around him. He's a quarterback that, while it looks unorthodox, so did Lamar Jackson, so did Kyler Murray. But, these teams built around him, and they built around those guys and used their talents the way that they were. I think, Minshew, you had the fan base there, they packed the stands. Obviously, there's no quote packing the stands now, so they didn't need to have the, Minshew mania mustaches. I think the Jaguars see their team bad enough that they can go out there and get what could be viewed as a prototypical franchise quarterback in the draft. And they don't want to go back to Minshew because Minshew also probably thinks he's going to be in the XFL reboot. So he's doing his what do they call it? He's going to try to puff up his resume, and he's interviewing for his next gig. So I'll tell you, if Minshew was playing, I wouldn't be picking Cleveland. I'd be picking the Jacks. I'd be taking the 7 points, and I'd say this guy, this crazy bastard, will find a way to keep it within that 7, or go out there and embarrass Cleveland. Not Mike Glennon. You know what you're getting there, and it's not something that's going to be able to beat the Browns. I think the Browns might have 200 yards rushing today, maybe more.
I agree.
And I think that's going to be the way it is. I think they're going to go up, and they're just going to continue to pound the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think both of them score touchdowns. And it's one of what I thought was one of the easier picks of the day. A more fun game, right? Because there are a couple of these Gemini offenses in there where you don't know which team you're going to get, and one of them is the New England Patriots. And this spread, by the way, it's Cardinals at Patriots. I'm picking the Cardinals here. It's Cardinals minus 1.5. It was Cardinals minus 2.5. The spread's actually come down a little bit, which is weird. And maybe you think it's the ghosts of Foxborough, right? In years past, if you heard that a first or second year quarterback was going into Foxborough to play against the Patriots, you just penciled in the Patriots for a win. But that's clearly not the case now. And that's not because Tom Brady left. I mean, obviously that's part of it, but just, they've lost to a bunch of young quarterbacks this year, Drew Lock, right? I mean, it's just, it's
to be fair,
Mhm.
it falls on Bill Belichick, the GM. They just don't have a ton of talent on that team. Most of their best talent is on both offensively and defensively is around the league. That's what happens, though. Like, the Patriots have this way of getting people that are so cheap, building them up and making them into like perceived stars. Other teams end up overpaying them, but this season it just seems like it's like the replacement roster. They have everyone that's they're still
which
playing
used to
really
be
well.
it used to be okay,
above
right?
their grade, in my opinion.
You used to be able to say, like, all right, who are these guys? They find them off the recycling bin, right? The whole deal, and they still made it work. It was like, all right, plug and play Brady and Belichick. Who are these receivers? What's this guy Hogan? Who's this guy? I mean, they turned Julian Edelman, who probably wouldn't have lasted in the league in most teams, they turned him into a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Hogan was a lax player. Julian Edelman is a classic hockey player. Look, and they turned them into great wide receivers.
Julian Edelman's going to go into the Hall of Fame right next to Matthew Stafford. So, it's crazy stuff, right? So, but this game, right? This game right here is I mean, talk about two teams that you never know really what you're going to get. The 6-4 Cardinals, the 4-6 Patriots, and both of them. I mean, they could both be 5-5. They could be, and the Patriots could be 6-4, and the Cardinals could be 4-6. This is just one where, if I had to trust one team over the other, I'm going to go with the Cardinals winning this game. I just don't. The Patriots, it's just been weird, right? They just, they've been very inconsistent, and I think Arizona has too much for them here to go against them, and it's only 1.5. So I think Arizona covers that one pretty easy, and that leaves us with only one more 1:00 game, and that is Tua time.
Tua time. Magic. Tua's injured.
I know, dude. I'm making fun. Making Tua time.
They need when Tua's back, I want to see both of them in the backfield. A little Fitzpatrick Tua action back there.
So you know what's funny about this one, right? What I would say on this is I probably would have picked the Jets plus the 7 if Tua was playing, right? Because I forget who said it. Maybe John Madden, right? John Madden said winning is the best deodorant. Right? You ever heard that saying, right? Like, as long as you win, you can win ugly. But
Hmm.
when you're ugly and it ends up in a loss, people start putting a magnifying glass on it. So another way of saying it, right, is you evaluate via the scoreboard, right? So Tua's numbers and his passing statistics last week when he was losing to Denver were not all that different than what he delivered against the Rams 3 weeks before that when they won. And yet that type of passing statistics last week got him benched. Right? So, I mean, injured, benched, whatever it may
Don't be
be, right?
spreading false rumors, please, about my guy.
So, but the point is, Tua, while they won some games, has he looked like, a world beater? Has he looked like somebody who's going out there and chucking the ball all around the field? It just doesn't look like his game. I mean, it just doesn't.
It
Not
doesn't.
really.
I think what he does really well is he's a guy that's going to convert 3rd and 5 for you, which is a
Yep.
big deal in the NFL.
Yep.
Converting 3rd downs in the NFL is like the way to win. By the way, if you guys want to like kind of analyze it, but you never know if you're going to convert. But because he could do it with his hand and his feet, he's good at converting those downs. But I agree, Fitzmagic could air it out, and I really think both of those quarterbacks, Tua mostly, just don't put the team in bad positions. Right, that defense is really the core, and their running game. They just not turning the ball over, not putting them in bad spots. That's really all they need to win this game by
You
20,
know
in
what?
my opinion.
I consider this game a gift for Ryan Fitzmagic, right? I mean, talk about, you got the lowly Jets who are, even if they weren't tanking, would lose this game by 2 scores, right? And they are. They're trying to make sure that the Jaguars, who are tanking, don't catch them for the number one pick, right? So, it's a perfect scenario. This is, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Get your family to the field with their video cameras to make a highlight reel film for you, because today is the one where you're going to be showing those video clips. Get your agent there for wherever you're going to be next year, because it's Tua time in Miami and Ryan Fitzpatrick. If you want to stay in the league, if you can't put up a highlight reel against the Jets today, you're not going to be able to do it. So I expect, if you're a fantasy player, go on there this morning and get Fitzpatrick. He might be the leading quarterback stat of the day. He might throw 4 touchdowns out there for you, just because,
Cage, can I pitch you a $1 billion idea?
no.
End of the season, we have the playoffs, but we should
Mm-hmm.
also have this 4-team playoff for the top seed, for the top draft pick. Okay.
And do they have to win to get the draft?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So you have to tank all season, but then you have to play in this playoff, and it's just 2 games. So it's not a whole bunch of, and I think people would love it. And you'd see like Jets, Jaguars, Bengals. Who would you put in that 4th seed? That's where it gets interesting.
Well, you
Billion
have to do it
dollar
by
idea.
record, right? There's got to be a way to do it by record. The worst four. I mean, they do it for the draft, right? So it's strength of schedule, whatever it may be. So you put those final 4 teams that would be in the draft.
Cowboys. Oh my God, Cage, I'm so sorry I said it. Your
Yeah,
10-6 Cowboys might be that first spot.
Listen, Cowboys. I mean, they let me down. Those Cowboys. They definitely did. They had a shot to actually take control of the. They had a shot to take control of their division there. They had a shot to, take the lead for a minute, and they really shit the bed there against
They're
a
shooting
team
with a squirt gun, brother.
against a team with no name. I mean,
Super Soaker. They have like the discount edition of Super Soakers on that team.
so in case you haven't figured it out yet, to end off the 1:00 games, we are going with the Dolphins to easily handle the lowly Jets by 7. So it's Miami -7 in that one. Yeah, I think that they have that 7 covered in the first quarter and never look back. I think it'll be covered pretty easy, pretty early, and don't expect much, interference from Miami. So let's move on to another game that I have that is not going to be chalk. It is the 49ers at the Rams.
49ers. I was going to ask you something, and maybe you could touch on this
please
here.
go ahead. Were you
Who
going
do
to
you
ask me
think the
about
best?
Lionheart Smith from last night, who we didn't get to touch on when we talked about boxing, and how I told you the guy
That's
was
on you.
game? And
Don't put
he
that
had
on
a
me.
round
Don't
1
put that on me.
submission win for Lionheart Smith. I told you all. That guy's a beast. Go ahead.
NFC West. Who do you have as the best team there?
Do you remember my pick about the NFC West, right?
You
remember
said
when
every
I said
team's
that? I
going to
said
be over 500.
every team's going to finish at least. I said not going to have a team with a losing record. So I think every team will be 500 or better in that division, which just doesn't happen. Who I think is the best team in that division? I still think Seattle wins the division, but it is really, really close. I mean, it could be any one of that. I mean, the Rams are good; they're even at the top of that division with Seattle. It's I think the
That
Rams,
Ram team is becoming a problem, Cage.
they're good. I think they lose today, by the way.
No, you don't.
I do.
That's a good play. That's a letdown game you're seeing.
Yeah.
Two young coaches. This is a coaching battle. This is exciting.
And
Kyle
while
Shanahan versus Todd. Is it Todd McVay? No, Sean McVay.
Yep. Um, I think they already beat them once this year. Obviously, it's a different team, right? I mean, it's a different, different. They don't have all the weapons they have, but San Francisco was not a bad team. They're just a
No,
team
they're
that's
not.
been very hurt, right? So, and this is a game they have to win. And for me to have my prediction of every team coming at 500 at least, win. I mean, they're 4-6, the Niners, but they're not. They're a pretty good 4-6 team, let me tell you. They've been more of an injured team than a bad team. This has been a letdown season, right? But they're not even eliminated from the playoffs yet. I think they still have, I call it a 11 or 12% chance, whatever it is, to qualify for postseason. But I'm not going to come in here and tell you that the 49ers are a postseason team. What I am going to tell you is that they're a potential spoiler role down the stretch here, right? So here you have the Rams. You got everybody talking about how great the Rams are. They've, they pulled even with with Seattle, who's had a little bit of a disappointing season at 7-3 at the top of the division. But the difference in this game, I think, is San Francisco's running game. I don't think they're going to have Brandon Ayuk, which is fine. He runs the ball every now and again too. But I would, if I was Shanahan, I'd run, and run again. They got Mostert, Tevin Coleman. I wouldn't lean on the Niners quarterback, whoever it may be today. Garoppolo's ankle sprain is a no. But listen here. Do I really think the 49ers win this game? I give them a chance to win the game. Do I think they're going to win the game? Not really. But do I really think that they're going to have enough to make a division rival sweat a little bit and not win the game by a touchdown? Definitely. I think this game is closer than it is. The 49ers could win it. More likely is the Rams winning it close and not winning it by a touchdown. The spread was 7. I would have liked it more at 7, but we give you the the honest plays here, and Andrew shows me where the lines are that he wants me to use, and the line he gave me is 49ers getting 6.5. I still like it. I think if the 49ers don't win, then it's a much closer game than that touchdown spread. Niners are a lot better than the 4-6 record, and I think the Rams have gotten a little lucky recently. I think a team comes in there with a healthy running game and a good game plan against them. I think they can really give them some trouble.
Agree. And the Rams have traveled a bit as well recently. So they've been on the East Coast to Tampa Bay. Then they played a tough division game versus Seahawks. And then right before that, they were also on the East Coast against the Dolphins. So schedule situation. I agree with you, Cage. It's a great play. All right,
So
last game.
the last
Or
game for
second to
4
last game, I
o'clock,
guess.
the 4 o'clock games here. The last game for us to talk about really is one that I almost like. It's almost I almost
Better
don't
without
want
Drew
to.
Lock.
No, I almost don't want to pick it, right? Because last week we were talking about quarterback for the Saints. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jameis Winston? Is it going to be Taysom Hill? If Winston's not playing, you could see no legitimate quarterbacks actually line up for either of these teams. It's pretty crazy what went on, right? This was one where the Saints were favored by anywhere from 5.5 to a touchdown before, and now we're looking at a 15-point spread. I got to ask you something, Andrew. If you're there,
I'm there.
we saw the Steelers Ravens game get postponed from Thursday to Sunday and then get postponed again from Sunday till Tuesday. I think they're playing this week.
That's right.
If because I don't know the answer, how does the league or the teams, how do they decide which games to move and which games not to move? Is there like an amount of players they have to reach? Is it like an agreement between the teams? Like, I don't know the answer, but
I
it
think
seems to
it's
me.
logic. I think they're trying to apply logic, and logic can be flawed. But like this Denver Broncos game would have
Mhm.
ended the same way, given the fact, like if they played it, 10 different times, more than likely the Saints win. The Broncos aren't going to the playoffs anyway, so it's not a game that we need to trouble and lose a lot of money on. A game that's big, like first off, the Steelers could go undefeated this year, which is huge for the NFL.
Yep.
Imagine that if that happens. That's just a big talking point. And that's a division game. So I just think it's how important, based on random metrics, it is to the NFL.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess it's. I mean, if you're a fan of the Broncos, who are going to be
Moving a game
using,
costs money. Moving a game costs a lot of money.
yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the Broncos though, and they're, and the Broncos who are going to be starting, who's going to be their quarterback today? I mean, who's the Broncos quarterback? Who are they using?
It's going to be
Is it
B Daily Sports, Bryce.
is it
Step on
like
in there, throw
B
some
Daily
passes.
Sports? I mean, seriously, I don't even know who that quarterback's going to be. What is it going to be? Brock Osweiler? I mean, like
I hope so.
like who's quarterbacking for the Broncos today? I don't even know. Wide receiver? Is it the kid? Is it Kendall Hinton who played quarterback at Wake Forest? I mean, like who's quarterbacking for them? I don't even know. But they're an NFL team and they're getting 15 points. Is that too much? Has the spread been kind of swung too far in that direction? Right? I mean, it's Taysom Hill, right? Taysom Hill against I don't know who is. I don't want to watch this game.
I don't want to watch.
I don't want
Well,
anything
I
to do
gave
with
you
this
a
game.
veto card 3 weeks ago, and you still have yet to use it. Like you can use it,
But
just like I'm not playing this game.
oh man, no. I mean, I really want to.
Please
I
don't
want
put
to.
your money on a quarterback-less Denver Broncos team. That
No,
wouldn't make a
I
lot of
mean,
sense to me.
what I want to say was I really wanted to pick Denver in this one just because, I kind of feel bad for them, but I hate Denver. I'm a Raider fan. I hate Denver. I hate the Chiefs. I hate the Chargers. I hate them all. Every division, I want them all to lose. And the Saints, look, I don't think it matters who's playing quarterback. They're a juggernaut. They've won 7 straight teams. They're 8-2. They could be winning this game 28-0 and then just kind of like walk for the second half. So I'm gonna, even though you hate my chalk, I'm gonna go New Orleans minus 15 in this one, and that's just the way it's got to be. It leaves only one game if you want to talk about the Sunday night game, right? It's Bears getting 9 points against the Green Bay Packers. Fun one, right? It's a fun one. No, not fun for you.
I hate the Bears, but Mitch Trubisky is probably starting, right? Or is it going to be Nick Foles?
I
Dude,
think
they
it's
suck,
Trubisky.
and Nagy sucks. And I like Allen Robinson a lot, and they just waste him. And I like Khalil Mack a lot, and the Bears suck, man. Dude, they scored like 3 points in the first half of the last like 4 games. Putrid, putrid. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be super, 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 super pissed off. And I think they torch him.
Listen, Chicago's got a decent defense. I mean, that's the
Yes,
one
they
thing you
do.
have to say. They have a decent defense, right? And but I went against Brady. Even though he's coming off of a loss, and I think we didn't talk about it then. The against the spread numbers for Brady after games that he's lost are one of those ridiculous, Vegas 80% kind of things. Aaron Rodgers coming off a disappointing loss, also one where his team was up, and the defense allowed a team to come back and beat them. Is there a better way of coming back and kind of getting that taste out of your mouth than going against the division rival, potentially starting a third stringer, potentially starting Mitch Trubisky? Chicago's defense is good. I mean, they're a good team, but you know, Green Bay may score 40 points this game. They may have 25, 28 points at halftime. Um, and I don't think Chicago is going to be able to score enough points. Now, Chicago will score also. Chicago will score points here, but I don't know if they're going to have enough points to score against the Packers. This one here, a fun little play on this one. If you have to, watch this game because it's Sunday night, right? So, Sunday night games, they're there for you, right? The over under on this one, and I'm sure it's in Green Bay. It's going to be ugly weather and the whole 9 yards, but it's a televised game. The over under on this game is only 44 points. I
Wow.
like that. I like the over on that. I think Chicago does score. Green Bay's defense is not that great. I think Green Bay scores a lot. And if I'm looking for Green Bay to score 30 plus points, it means Chicago's only got to muster 2 touchdowns in the game. It could be a 30 to 17 game, 34 to 14 game, something like that. Really the only concern about the over on it is whether or not Chicago can score enough points. I think that that Green Bay does most of the heavy lifting here. I know you hate it, but it's a Sunday night game. If you're chasing, if you're one of those guys that would have otherwise yesterday bet on the Hawaii game, I like those in-game parlays. Go for it. Go Pack and the over in the same game. Let's go. The Packers over. Do a reverse. You remember those? You have a better reverse? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? A little
Guy, you're
reverse.
so 90s.
Do a reverse.
Oh.
Do a reverse. A reverse would be mint.
Oh man, I like it. It is a little bit of a chalky Sunday, but I agree with the plays, Cage.
Well, that's always dangerous. But hey, we're having fun. We're having fun talking about this stuff. Anything else? Now that people have gotten our picks, and I'll do. I did the thing in the beginning where we'll throw the picks down for everybody. That way they can get them. Anything top of mind in the sports world? Anything crazy going down? Anything card wise we need to talk about? I mean, there's a ton of releases coming out. Over the next couple of weeks. Both companies trying to maximize their holiday spending. I wonder if there's any fatigue in the hobby. I wonder if there's any, we could talk about that. Maybe we'll do another episode, talk about, hobby fatigue. There's still several 1920 basketball releases coming out from Panini. Still Zion rookies. I mean, this 1-and-1 just came out, which is a cool looking product. What is it? Flawless, right? I mean, still coming out, right? That's like high end, $7,000 a box or something crazy like that. Does the collector who got into this a year ago, this year, you name it, say, when does it stop? How many releases are there? And, a product like 1-and-1 comes out and I see RPAs in that. And, do we buy those? Is that just yet another Zion RPA at a 99? I mean, which one is going to hold value? Are they all valuable? Maybe we chat about that. That's what's top of mind for me.
I don't know enough about the releases. I really don't. Like, I get questions from people, and I appreciate the questions. Drake asked great questions. He was like about Phoenix football.
Yep.
I don't know enough because I never really ripped wax. I never followed that. I look at the cards more as like kind of investments. Yep. So I think Lucas Silver Prism, regardless of what's happening with wax and fatigue, will still hold value because of that iconic card thing that we talked about. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure. But I do think this upcoming year, we could see some separation. And what I mean by that is if this draft class that came out in NBA underperforms, for example, ultimately the wax becomes less valuable. And ultimately, I think 2018 and 2019 draft classes become more valuable and the cards in them become more valuable. I'm not sure, though. That's just kind of just a theory.
You think maybe part of the reason why the 18 stuff went up is because the 19 stuff went up also? And you think that if that momentum dies and people who and maybe we'll just do maybe we'll do an episode on this. We should chat about it so we get more detail than just the last 5 minutes of the of the football thing. But there's an argument to be made that people are ripping wax and grading cards because there's a flip there, right? They're opening up the 1920 basketball and they're able to grade their Jared Culvers and their Brandon Clarks and their Darius Garlands and sell them. If there aren't the same kind of class of players there, let alone the Jaws and the Zions and the Tyler Heroes and whatnot, are we sure that those people are just going to now flock to and spend more money on the last draft class? Or are they going to say, okay, the gravy train is ending. You can't just open up whatever you want this year's stuff and flip it or sell it and send it over to PSA and get more money for it. I guess we'll see what happens. I got to tell you what my hope is. My hope is that this class surprises. And sometimes that happens when everybody goes into it saying, "Oh, this is just not a good draft class. They're not really good." Maybe there's a couple of players in there that surprise, and maybe it's not the top.
I think Obi Toppin is going to be huge for the Knicks. I think it's going to be really good. No, I'm not sarcastic.
Dude, when I said that, you made fun of me. That was my play. You were like, Obi Toppin.
Well, I guess my strength is going to do research, admitting when I'm wrong, and changing my opinion. I don't think changing my opinion is a weakness. And I watched some highlights. He's electrifying.
I told you that. I said he is a dunk machine. He dunks the ball like 60% of the time he touches it. And they're going to give him run in New York. They're going to let him play. They have no choice, right? They have nobody else to do it. I mean, the only shame of it is You talk about electrifying. He is the perfect kind of guy to play in Madison Square Garden. Get people buying his jersey, get people excited to watch the games, and above the rim type of play, and just nobody's going to be there, and that's a shame.
You guys remember Derrick Rose? You know who's coaching him? Tom Thibodeau. I mean, why not, right?
Yep.
I'll just say, I'll wrap with this. Guys, we got a ton of messages about people who wanted to join the IGDM groups. If we haven't added you in, just send us a message. And for mornings like this, guys, like we could only cover so much in an hour. The both of our groups, or I think a few of our groups that we've created, are buzzing this morning. So there's so much value because that's where we discuss the games. A big part of these IG groups is we don't see all the angles. The people start bringing us angles. You guys start seeing things that we don't see, and sharing that information. It makes life a lot easier for everyone else. So if you're not in an IG group with us and you're interested, just send us a DM. No sweat, we'll add you right in.
Yep, and we are actually in them. These are not they're not just groups. Go talk to people. I'm in them every day, and there shouldn't be too many, unless they happen while we were talking for the last hour and a half. There shouldn't be too many people who have expressed interest who haven't been put in. I try my best to get in there and add people. But yes, I mean, we mentioned this on our Black Friday episode, and we're mentioning it again. We do. We have Instagram groups where we talk about cards. We talk about games. We talk about trends, new releases, you name it. And Andrew and I are in those groups, and we try to talk strategy. And we let you know when an episode's coming out. Maybe you get a little inside information if you're in those Instagram groups as well. So you get more than just the one episode a day from us. Which if you have any interest. Just like Andrew said, if you have interest, just send us a message. We'll get you in one of our groups.
Thanks, now you got me thinking. I might put Cage behind a firewall. $6.99 to get the access to Cage every single day of the month. You could call him anytime, and $40 for the full year. Cage behind a firewall. Never.
No. We are not charging our folks, man. Luca Nation, we're coming to you free presently. That's it. Plus $6.99. Come on now, $6.99 for me. Look at this. You telling me I'm just worth $6.99? Come on now.
How do you know I meant $6.99? Maybe I meant $699.
Now that's more like it. I like it. And I also like that you start your numbers off all the time with a 6 and a 9. I don't know if it's subconscious. I don't know if you're trying to send me a message. I don't know what the story is, but it's very Bill and Ted's. All right, sir. Enjoy this slate of games today. And the Luca Nation, we love you. And like Andrew said, if you have an interest in joining one of our Instagram groups, just send us a message.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.